Welcome back to Mindful Conversations with Kay. This is Kelly.
And this is Kristi. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good. It's so
I'm
nice to be hanging
excited.
out again with you. I
Yeah, I'm
love
excited
this.
because today's going to be all about you, my friend.
Oh, man.
Last week
Oh,
was
man.
my turn. I was in the hot seat last week. So I told my story last week. So if you didn't get to listen to that, you can always go back and listen. But today is going to be all about our host, Kristi. So Kristi, I'm excited to hear your story and to just chat about your perspective. So why don't you first start by telling us about your background and, just all about Kristi.
Oh, sure thing. Well, and I'm prepared with my with my coffee for today. It's currently a chilly fall day as we record this, and so yeah, I'm just like I'm hunkered down and I'm ready to chat. This is fun. Yeah. So my background is I'm a fitness girl. So my degree is in exercise science. I got it, a couple of years ago. I won't say how many years ago now, but so my degree is in exercise science. I started out in the fitness world, and that's what I did for the majority of my earlier years. I live in a little town called Gig Harbor, Washington. It's south of Seattle with my husband and my two boys. And my boys are, they're 12 and 13 and a half. And, it was interesting when they came along, when my first son came along, and then shortly thereafter, my second son, I kind of shifted my focus. I was I was a personal trainer, I was a fitness instructor, I did all the things. And I kind of shifted my focus to kids after I had kids, which is kind of an obvious transition. But I started running these fitness classes for kids in my community. It's a pretty small community and pretty tight knit. And so I was doing all these classes, boot camp for kids. And then I had some other programs that I started, like some healthy cooking classes for kids, and then some strength training programs for girls. And I loved working with kids, and I continue to work with adults too, but I really kind of shifted my focus there. I also, just because of the kids' schedule and wanting to be able to be home with them, I was just kind of working part-time, and I took a job teaching preschool, again, because I love working with kids. And so I taught preschool, and that allowed me to be home when my kids were home, but still get that time working with kids. And so I did that for a number of years. I taught pre-K, and that's my jam. Those are my people, the fours and fives. So that's kind of, that was kind of what I did for a while, until I kind of shifted my focus into kids yoga. So
yeah, we'll get into that in a second, but I just want to comment on, I love how I always hear so many stories about when people become parents. That's such a common thing. What you said, my focus shifted. And it's such a transition, right, to becoming a mom. And it really does make you sort of reevaluate, and things that might have been important to you before sort of change. And not that they're not still important, and the work that you were doing previous was important work and everything, but it's always so interesting how our children can open up new doors for us, when we enter into that world of being a parent. So
100%. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So then how did you stumble upon kids yoga? And was that a thing in your area that you noticed, or?
No, not at all. That's the interesting thing. It wasn't. Well, and just my own experience with yoga was interesting, because having been in the fitness industry and being, a pretty competitive person, and my husband and I always laugh, because when we first met, we did this competition, like we're gonna go hike. There's a mountain. It's a small mountain, but it's a mountain nonetheless. In the area, it's like, we're gonna go hike Mount Si, and we're gonna race to the top, right? So we're pretty competitive people, pretty physical people. So when I was first drawn to yoga, it was probably in the late 90s, but I was really drawn to the physical aspect of it. And that's really all I knew about yoga. I didn't know much about it. I didn't know all the other pieces of
Mhm.
it. It was just kind of the physical piece. So I had my own personal, asana practice, but really had not studied much. So when I started teaching preschool, I brought a lot of physical elements into my classroom. I brought a lot of movement into my classroom because I thought that was real important. We did music and movement and the fitnessy type of things, that were appropriate for 4 and 5-year-olds. And the kids loved it. So I brought yoga into it. We would do yoga poses and that sort of thing. And that was fun. Well, then I was the preschool where I worked offered to send me to some professional development, and I started looking around and I came across Kidding Around Yoga, and I was like, this looks really cool, and I started researching it, and so I ended up going through my Kidding Around Yoga training when I was still teaching preschool, and I immediately came home from that training and I just was like, wow, this is my jam. This is exactly what I need to be doing. And I brought it into my classroom and I saw what it did for the kids. I saw how we were able to teach yoga in a really fun, playful way, and using music and using games and all these things that made sense to the kids, and the kids just loved it. And I'd get pictures from text messages from
Mhm.
some of the parents of the kids in my classroom, and they'd send me like, oh yeah, check this out, my kiddo was sitting down and meditating, or my kiddo was doing tree pose, or my kiddo was doing this. And so they just loved it. And so because of that, and I decided that I really wanted to focus 100% of my efforts on kids yoga. And so that following, I didn't go back into the classroom that following school year. So over the summer, I ran camps, yoga camps and after school programs at the local yoga studio. And then as we moved into the fall, I connected with the Montessori school and started teaching yoga and mindfulness at that school. And then I connected with some of the public schools in the area where I was able to teach yoga during PE. And I kind of rotated through and would spend a week at a time at these schools. And it was so fun. And what's funny is literally the other day, I was at a coffee shop like 3 days ago with a friend of mine, and we're just sitting having coffee. And this woman comes over to me and she said, I don't know if you remember me, and she introduced herself and she goes, my child told me her child's name. And it's this child is the same age as my oldest son. And she's like, she still has the calming jar that you brought to their classroom, because I volunteered, in both of my kids' classrooms, and I would bring all of the kids a calming jar, a glitter jar that they could shake and, watch the glitter swirl around, and then, use their meditation to help calm their minds down. She's like, she still has that. And she said, would you be willing to come and come to the middle school? Because this child is now in middle school. And she's like, would you be able to come to the middle school and do some mindfulness with it? I'm like, of course, 100%. So it's really fun to see that these things that we're introducing to the kids, they're resonating with them, and they're continuing to use these tools, and they're continuing to stay connected to it. And it might change and look a little bit different, but it's I think it makes such a huge impact on these kids. And so I just feel so fortunate to be able to do this as my jam, my full-time gig. So
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love the perspective that you have on it and how you can look at coming from the physical education type background that you have, and how you can shift that a little bit. Because I think I don't know, thinking about it, as a child, I was not the, athletic kid. That wasn't my strong suit. I was kind of was like told I was a little uncoordinated. I don't know that that was necessarily true. I think it was a little bit coming from my anxiety, and I felt a little awkward. So then I sort of became uncoordinated during certain activities.
yeah.
But PE was really stressful for me.
Yes.
And I've talked about this with other people before, but I go back to this all the time. I'll never forget this day in 6th grade. My 6th grade gym teacher was a much older male. He was very strict, very stern. And we were doing squat thrust. Remember?
Oh, squat thrusts. Oh yeah. Also known as burpees.
Right, now known as burpees. And we were doing this in gym class, and I guess I wasn't doing it properly. And he called me out in front of the whole entire gym class and said, if I can do this the right way, and he demonstrated, and I'm such and such years old, like, come on, like, you could do this kind of thing. And I was mortified. I was already so self-conscious in gym, and I was didn't really understand physically what my body could do. I didn't have body confidence.
Yeah.
So I know now, like, you are doing such amazing things of like going into PE classes and doing yoga and showing the students to have this different relationship about what physical health can mean and what it can look like. And it doesn't always have to be about being the fastest and the strongest and all of that stuff. And, I have chills like talking about it, because it's so, so important for kids to learn that physicalness, and that have that body confidence, no matter what their body is, no matter what their skill level might be. It's
improving physical literacy. It's improving, it's creating that mind body connection. The interesting thing about PE, and Kelly, you and I have been friends for a while, and I don't think I've ever heard that story, and it breaks my little heart a little bit to hear that, to think about like a child being singled out like that, and pointing a finger and like, rah, this is how it should be done. I mean, that just, oh my gosh. But when I brought yoga into the phys ed classrooms, for a lot of kids, for a lot of kids, that's their favorite time. Like, oh, I love PE. That's my favorite thing. I mean, for others, it does cause some anxiety, but yoga is something that everyone can do. And it allows you to kind of just be in your body, to feel what it feels like we're working strength, endurance, flexibility, all those things that we talk about that are part of physical literacy. The yoga poses can help with that, but it's so accessible for every child, and every child can do it. Every child is capable of doing it. And so, I think it's one of those things that, my goal would be to have it in every single school, across the
right. Because the powerful thing about yoga is that everybody looks different in the poses, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's body is different. Whereas the other things that we may learn about physical fitness, there's a certain form and a certain perfect way of doing it. And if you don't have that skill level, like you're not, you're not the best of the best at that thing, then you don't measure up.
Right.
And yoga doesn't have that. Like everybody can look different in a pose, and it's good. It's perfect for you. It's what's good for your body. And that's like the powerful piece. And I know that you are also working with teenage girls now, and, having really powerful classes for them to sort of, and that's like a population that needs that body confidence and to,
Well, and this program that I teach now, it's called Root to Rise, and it's at our local yoga studio here where I teach my adult classes. And the idea behind Root to Rise is teaching the girls to, really celebrate their roots, celebrate, their bodies, their families, their friends, all these people that are supportive of them, like to really establish a strong foundation, and surround yourself with positivity so that you can rise up and you can raise others up as well. And so it's been really just so awesome to work with these teenage girls. I mean, it's very different. I mean, I have boys, and so I didn't have a lot of experience working with teenage girls, but it's been absolutely a ball to work with them, and they're having fun. And that's the thing that is so funny about like kidding around yoga. you have some people that'll walk by your class, or that'll, you'll talk to you about it, and they're just like, really, is that yoga? Like you're dancing, you're running around the place. That doesn't look like yoga to me. And that's why I think it made so much sense to me, and why I gravitated to this company, because, we are teaching poses, we're teaching meditation, we're teaching all of the different limbs of yoga, but we're doing it in a way that makes sense to kids, and we're meeting them on their level, right? And so they, and even with the teen girls, maybe I don't use all the songs with them. I might use a couple of them, but giving them the permission to be playful, bringing in the games, maybe bringing in some songs here and there, but, giving them that permission to just like, hey, loosen up. You don't have to be so serious, right? We're, don't be in a rush to grow up. It's, take this opportunity to play and have fun. And, when I first started teaching teenage girls, I was like, ooh, I gotta be serious. I gotta be, because they're going to want to be serious and everything. But then as I started playing more games, like bringing more games in, they were like, this is great. They love it. And so,
Yes.
it's been a
I think
class.
that's like, such an important skill, even for adults. That's why, that's one of the reasons why I love family classes. Cause like you give the parents a chance, like it's your turn to be silly and be playful and just have some fun. And even today I was just teaching an outdoor class at a preschool where I work. And so parents were coming and going because there's different drop-off times and pickup times. So parents are passing me, as I'm jogging through the jungle with my group. And, back in the day, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. They must think, what is she doing? And instead I'm like, I'm all in it with these kids. We're having a blast. And I'm like, unapologetically having fun while
absolutely 100%. Yeah, it's great. And I mean, I feel so lucky to have connected with kidding around yoga, and it's been really fun to now, of course, being involved in a little larger scale as a trainer and as part of the professional development team for Educate, and to be, part of the, the executive team doing kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff for Kay. The more I get to know the people and the program, it's just the more I fall in love with it, and just believe 100% wholeheartedly in, the mission behind it. So we're
couldn't agree more. And that's why I love that, we're doing this podcast. So what are you most excited about that's, with the podcast and coming up?
Well, and we've talked about some ideas on what some of our episodes are going to look like, and who we're going to talk to, who we're going to interview, and all of this. And I want to share all the things, right? I want to share everything that we have. I'm just looking forward to helping parents, helping teachers, counselors, whoever it is that's listening, just giving them ideas for different strategies that they can use to bring these tools to their kids, right? I mean, I try and think about how different things might have been in our world if we were all introduced to this stuff at an early age, right? And the teachers are the ones that are seeing our kids all the time. And I think they have such a large reach. And so to be able to give them some things that they can bring into their classrooms, I think is just going to be super beneficial. Maybe just helping parents, if there's a parent out there that's frustrated, that's just like, I just don't even know how to deal with this. I'm hoping that we can reach some of them. I'm just hoping that people will listen and they'll be able to relate to the stories that we're sharing, and the maybe some of the things that come up, some struggles that they might have, with their own kids, and they'll be able to get some good information from us. That's kind of vague. I mean, I feel like that's a really vague answer. What are you most excited about? All the things. I'm excited about everything. But
really, it's like what I'm thinking of when you're saying that is I feel I agree with you 100%. Like, you're excited to let this be a great resource out there for parents and teachers, like a resource where parents can they know they can turn to this podcast and find all the things that they might, need to help their kiddo and themselves, be more joyous and and calm and whatever it is that they're looking for that day.
Completely. And, it's just a podcast. I've been listening to so many podcasts lately, and it's just, I find it's just such a great way to connect with other people and to just spend time together. And I find that, that's so important for us these days, is to find connections with people who are going through similar things, and to be able to share ideas. And that's what we're doing. We're just hanging out. We're talking, we're chatting, we're just sharing, some of the things that we've learned. And yeah, it's just, I'm couldn't be more excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was so great to learn some new things about you, even though we've been friends for a while now. But, when we asked to share our stories, it's been fun because we've gotten to learn some new stuff about each other too. And so I really appreciate you being so open and sharing with us. And I'm excited for this journey with you.
Me too. We're going to have a lot of fun. So here's to us. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. And stay tuned, everybody, for some more great episodes. We will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.